Welcome to the Deep Dive. This is where we take your questions, look at the sources you send us, and really pull out the key information you need. Think of it as, well, your fast track to getting up to speed.
And today we're diving into something delicious, actually. A listener asked about the difference between Cantonese cuisine and just, Chinese food in general.
Exactly. We got this really interesting article, Cantonese versus Chinese food. What's the difference in flavor, ingredients, and cooking style? And yeah, it got us thinking.
So our mission today is pretty clear.
Right. We want to sort of map out how Cantonese cooking fits into that huge picture of Chinese cuisine. We'll look at flavors, ingredients, cooking styles, basically highlight what makes it distinct so you can appreciate it more.
Okay, so first things first, let's tackle that common idea that Chinese food is just one single thing. It's really not.
That's such a crucial point. It's like saying European food, isn't it? I mean, that covers everything from Italian pasta to, I don't know, German sausage, huge variety.
Yeah, precisely. And China is massive, geographically speaking. So naturally, you get these incredibly diverse regional cuisines. And Cantonese cuisine is one very specific, very important part of that. It comes from Guangdong province down in the southeast.
And even within Guangdong, it's not all the same, is it?
Yeah.
The article mentions substyles like chow chow.
Yes, Taoqiao, Xunde, Hakka, Guangzhou. Each has its own little nuances, though they share core ideas. Chow chow, being coastal, is big on seafood, very delicate.
Interesting. So, okay, what about the taste? How does Cantonese generally taste compared to other Chinese food?
Well, the big thing is it's generally milder, much more focused on the natural flavors of the ingredients themselves.
Yeah, that really jumped out from the article. To contrast it with places like Szechuan, which are known for being much bolder, often really quite spicy.
Exactly. Cantonese cooking is all about freshness. The goal is to sort of elevate the ingredient's own taste, not cover it up with tons of space.
So the dishes often feel quite balanced and maybe less oily sometimes.
Often, yes, balanced is a good word. And the article even suggests it's a great way in if you're maybe a bit hesitant about, say, really spicy food.
That makes sense. Because often when you think Chinese food in a general way, you might picture things with a fair bit of heat or lots of soy sauce, garlic, ginger, those stronger flavors.
And those are definitely used across China, but in Cantonese cooking, they tend to be used more moderately. It's about adding a subtle layer, not having one flavor dominate everything else.
Okay, let's try and pin down some key differences then. Origin, that's clear, right? Cantonese is specifically Guangdong.
Yep, Guangdong province, while Chinese food is the umbrella term for everything from all over China.
And spice level, we've touched on that. Cantonese is generally milder.
Much milder, usually, compared to somewhere like Sichuan, which can be famously intensely spicy.
Right. And ingredients. The article really pushed the fresh seafood and vegetables angle for Cantonese. Is that just because they're on the coast?
Well, the coast definitely helps with accessing fresh seafood, that's true. But it's also about the philosophy. Cantonese cooking really values the delicate taste and texture of seafood.
So the cooking methods support that.
Exactly. Things like steaming, gentle poaching, they're designed to showcase that natural quality, often with just a little seasoning. It gives Cantonese seafood dishes a very distinct character, even though other regions use seafood too.
And meat. It's used, but seafood is maybe more prominent.
Seafood is definitely a strong preference, yes, though they certainly have fantastic meat dishes too.
Okay, but it can't all be differences. What are the common threads? What makes Cantonese Chinese food?
Well, the most basic thing is it's eaten in China. It's fundamentally part of that broader Chinese culinary world.
And staples, I guess, like rice and soy sauce.
Absolutely. Rice is fundamental everywhere in China, pretty much. Steamed in buns, made into noodles.
So many ways.
And soy sauce is, a cornerstone seasoning across the board for that savory depth, that umami.
And thinking bigger picture, both Cantonese and other Chinese styles are everywhere now, aren't they? Global phenomenon.
Oh, definitely. You find Chinese restaurants all over the world. And the article makes a good point. Eating Cantonese food outside China, you're still eating Chinese food, which is a very specific, often very refined regional version.
Okay, that gives us a really good framework. But the article had this FAQ bit too, going into even more detail. Should we dig into some of those finer points?
Yeah, let's do that. The first one was about flavor dominance, I think.
Right. It talked about this Cantonese idea of balance, not letting any single flavor dominate.
Which is really interesting when you contrast it with, say, Sichuan's mala, that numbing and spicy combination, or Hunan's fermented chili heat. Very different goals.
Yeah, the article mentions Cantonese using things like oyster sauce, ginger, scallions for umami, and a kind of gentle sweetness, but holding back on the chili heat mostly.
Exactly. Very different from maybe the saltier profile you might find in Shandong cuisine up north.
Okay, what about unique ingredients then? What specifically shouts Cantonese?
Well, there are things like dried shrimp, dried scallops. They add incredible depth. Napa cabbage, bok choy. Those feature heavily.
And it mentions some less common meat cuts. Smoked duck, black bean spare ribs.
Yes, and that emphasis on super fresh seafood, we can't stress that enough. Also, maybe more use of awful things like tripe or chicken feet than in some other regions.
And specific sauces. Hoisin, salted plum paste.
Those are quite characteristic, yes. And things like lotus root. It's a really interesting pantry.
It also mentioned a shift, like historically maybe more exotic meats were used, but now it's more about really high quality staples
Yeah.
and refined tofu and rice noodles,
That seems to be the case, yeah. A focus on perfection in the basics.
which leads us nicely into cooking techniques. The article highlighted wok hei.
Ah, the breath of the wok.
Yeah.
That smoky flavor you get from super high heat stir frying, hard to replicate at home.
It really is.
Mm.
But it's key to so many Cantonese dishes. It cooks things incredibly fast, keeps vegetables crisp, but they also rely heavily on steaming, right? For dim sum, fish, delicate things.
Exactly. Where you want to preserve that natural moisture and flavor, gentle braising is common too, and double cooking sometimes.
It sounds very precise. Like avoiding overcooking is a big deal, especially for vegetables. And those clear broths, they take hours, don't they?
Oh, absolutely. Meticulous preparation. It's quite different from the hearty stews you might find further north, or the red braising common in eastern China. Even their roasting is distinct. Think char siu pork or that crispy pork belly.
Okay, rice is huge everywhere in China. How do Cantonese rice dishes stand out?
They often aim for lightness and balance. Yangzhou fried rice is a classic example. You can taste each ingredient. And clay pot rice, of course.
With the crispy bottom. Love that.
It's fantastic. And congee rice porridge is arguably taken to its highest level in Cantonese cuisine with all sorts of toppings.
So less heavy than some other regional rice dishes, like Fujian oyster rice or rice served with spicy Sichuan toppings.
Generally, yes. The Cantonese approach often lets the rice be a cleaner base, though they have innovations too, like sticky rice wrapped in lotus leaf or that golden fried rice coated in egg. But fundamentally, perfectly cooked, fluffy white rice is just central.
We keep saying mild or sparing with spice. Can we get more specific on Cantonese seasoning?
Well, they rely a lot on fresh aromatics, ginger, garlic, scallions. White pepper is used, but usually subtly. You don't typically find the heaps of dried chili flakes or powders like in Sichuan or Hunan.
Even their five-spice powders may be more subtle.
Often, yes. Instead, they use things like oyster sauce for umami, rice wine for fragrance, sesame oil for richness, all to enhance, not mask. And fermented black beans add savoriness without much heat.
And sugar. The article mentioned using sugar as a balancer in savory dishes.
Yes, that's quite characteristic. It helps create that King Dan profile. Clean, mild, letting the ingredients' true taste shine.
Okay, noodles, another staple. How are Cantonese noodles different?
You see a lot of rice noodles, the thin mei fun, the wider ho fun. They're often cooked very quickly, stir-fried or in soup. And wada noodles, of course.
Ah, the classic soup with the delicate dumplings.
Exactly. It's quite different from the chewy, wheat-based, hand-pulled noodles lamian you find in the north, or something like Sichuan's rich, peanutty dan dan noodles.
The article mentioned ifu noodles too, and longevity noodles.
Yes, unique preparations. The focus is often on a light but deeply flavorful broth, or achieving that perfect stir-fry texture like in beef chow fun, getting those wide noodles smoky but not greasy. That's real skill.
Pork next. What's the Cantonese signature style?
Often it highlights a natural sweetness. Think char siu, that barbecue pork with a slightly sweet glaze, or spare ribs steamed with savory black bean sauce and that amazing crispy pork belly.
It sounds less rustic, maybe, than some other regional pork dishes.
Perhaps, yes. More refined in some ways. And they do whole roasted suckling pig for celebrations. And use offal too. The key seems to be preserving juiciness through really precise cooking.
Okay, and chicken. What's the approach there?
Purity of flavor seems key. White-cut chicken is the perfect example, just gently poached, served often with a ginger scallion oil. You taste the chicken.
Or salt-baked chicken.
Exactly. Again, letting the chicken itself be the star. It's often about poaching or steaming to keep it moist and tender. Very different from, say, tea-smoked duck or a heavily sauced kung pao chicken elsewhere.
And they use the whole bird, like in other parts of China.
Oh, yes. And unique dishes like chicken steamed in lotus leaf or drunken chicken steeped in wine.
What about vegetarian or vegan? How does Cantonese cuisine handle that?
There's a really long tradition of Buddhist vegetarian cooking, which is incredibly inventive with meat substitutes from things like gluten or tofu. But even simple vegetable dishes show great respect for the ingredient, like gailan Chinese broccoli, quickly blanched and served with oyster sauce.
Which can be made vegan easily, I suppose.
Easily, yes. Just use a mushroom-based vegetarian oyster sauce. It tends to be less about heavy spice compared to vegetarian food in other regions. They have interesting fermentation techniques too, and Hong Kong has seen a lot of innovation in vegan dim sum recently.
Fascinating. Okay, soups. What defines a Cantonese soup?
They're typically very clear, light, and often simmered for a long, long time, sometimes with medicinal herbs added for health benefits. Think of winter melon soup or pork bone broths simmered for hours.
So less thick or spicy than soups elsewhere might be.
Generally, yes. They often use ingredients like dried tangerine peel for aroma or snow fungus for texture, and there's that tradition of drinking soup at the start of the meal. Plus, they vary by season, following traditional Chinese medicine ideas.
Right, how about beef?
Often features in very quick stir-fries. Ginger scallion beef is a classic tender slices cooked in moments. They also like textural contrasts like beef with bitter melon or that long-simmered beef brisket in daikon stew.
Again, sounds like letting the beef flavor come through rather than masking it with spice.
That's often the goal, yes. They use techniques like velveting meat, coating it lightly in cornstarch and egg white to ensure it's incredibly tender when stir-fried. There are unique dishes like beef tendon stew, and even Western-influenced dishes like Cantonese-style steak, often with black pepper sauce, thanks to Hong Kong's history.
Okay, almost there. Desserts. What's the Cantonese sweet scene like?
Generally less intensely sweet than in some other parts of China. They're often called tong sui, meaning sweet water. Think red bean soup, black sesame soup, taro sago, often quite light and comforting.
Lots of beans, lotus seeds, fruit.
Yes, and tropical fruits like mango, coconut milk features quite a bit too. Things like mango pomelo sago are hugely popular, or that creamy double-skin milk pudding.
And egg tarts. Can't forget those.
Definitely. That Portuguese influence via Macau, and some sweets are even considered to have sort of health-giving properties.
And finally, eggs. How are they used distinctly?
Well, preserved eggs, century eggs, and salted duck eggs are used quite a bit in congee or things like mooncakes, and they are absolute masters of silky, smooth, steamed egg custard or perfectly scrambled eggs.
It sounds like they really value the texture of eggs.
Very much so. They even use egg whites to clarify broths or yolks for richness in sauces. It's about using the egg precisely for its properties.
Wow. Okay, so the article wrapped up by connecting all this back to the geography of Guangdong, didn't it?
It did, and it makes so much sense. The long coastline obviously means fantastic seafood. The fertile river delta means great produce.
And the warm climate maybe favors lighter cooking, steaming those clear soups.
Exactly. Plus, Canton, or Guangzhou, was a massive trading port for centuries, so it absorbed influences and ingredients from outside. And Hong Kong's British colonial past added another layer, especially in baking.
And maybe the region's wealth allowed for developing these more refined techniques and using premium ingredients.
That's likely a factor too, yes. Access to quality and the time to perfect technique.
So really pulling it all together, Cantonese food isn't just a type of Chinese food. It's a very distinct, incredibly important culinary tradition on its own.
Absolutely. Defined by that focus on natural flavors, super fresh ingredients, and really refined, skillful cooking methods.
And knowing these differences, well, it just makes exploring Chinese food, ordering in restaurants, so much more interesting and enjoyable, doesn't it? You know a bit more what you're looking for.
Definitely enhances the appreciation. So, maybe a final thought for you listening. Think about other food cultures you know. How has their geography, their history, their trade connections shaped what they eat and how they cook? It's a fascinating way to look at the world, really.